And gentlemen, at this time, we want to say welcome to Game TV. Welcome and welcome to our broadcast here at Game TV. Game TV is the media platform of the grassroots alternative movement. Welcome to our broadcast. This is another edition of our weekly broadcast that you will be seeing quite too often. Currently, our schedule is every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, which is 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and I believe it's about 4 p.m. Liberia time. Welcome to Grid TV. In today's edition of Game TV, we are looking at the rejected referendum in Liberia, and we will also touch on some governance issues in Liberia. This is where you want to be for a conversation about the forward march of our country. We ask you to share the show with your contact and friends and to stay with us as we go into this discussion. In today's discussion of Game TV, I have with me Mr. Josiah Joekai Jr. He is the executive chairman of Game USA, that is the grassroots alternative movement diaspora um, aspect, and we want you to be here with us. Mr. Jokai, welcome to Game TV. I'm happy that we are here for another exciting edition of Game TV.
Absolutely. And it's really my pleasure to be here with you on Game TV. Like you rightfully said, Game TV is just part of the strategy to enhance our communication and outreach program. So this is going to be very interesting. My understanding is that you will be hosting, people with diverse backgrounds to talk about how we can support the ongoing recovery and development program of our country, Liberia. And GAME is pleased to be a part of this national initiative. So I see this as an imperative if we should be able to get the support of the Liberian people, both home and abroad. So it's a very good program, and I'd like to congratulate GAME for that. My understanding is that hopefully in the weeks to come is going to be held like 3 days a week, and then on every Saturday we're going to have a special edition like this one, bringing officials and members, in positions within GAME to discuss GAME's activities. That's a very good plan. Much appreciated.
This is exciting, and surely the grassroots alternative movement is trying to engage the issue of our country, and that is the right thing to do. But let's get started with this exciting edition. We want to know what is GAME and why should anybody consider being part of GAME?
Right. So GAME is actually the abbreviation or the acronym, if you like, for the grassroots alternative movement. This is a social justice, political and advocacy organization that was established a little over a year ago. And we should really credit that endeavor to people like you, Anthony. You're one of the pioneers, let me say that to the public. And people like Comrade Vandela Patricks, Larama Nyonton, Dr. Emmanuel K. Ure, all of you initiated this process, and today we now have a functional institution called the Grassroots Alternative Movement. So you guys should be credited for that initiative. Like I said, the institution is a social justice, political and advocacy organization, and it is committed to building a just society in Liberia. That's our overall goal, and we hope to ensure that we attain the Liberia with the tenets of fair play, equality, and justice. That's what GAME seeks. So that's the organization. It is open to all Liberians, you can become a full member. That's 100%. And the way to do it is to visit our website. You can just log on to www.gameliberia.org. That's ORG. And then you can review our website. Very exciting, very educative, informative. Everything you want to know about game is available there in terms of our programs, our vision, our mission, our collaborations with other organizations and our membership. In fact, you can find the information there. Since its establishment, so many Liberians from all walks of life, even non-Liberians, have expressed interest because of our structure and our commitment in being part of this movement. So you can become a part of it. We have a Code of Allegiance there that you can also read and sign up to and become a member of GAME. You can do that. If you are in Liberia, you can contact the leadership. The information is also available on the website on how you can become a member. We now have a great membership, and we're looking forward to expand that significantly. So that's who we are.
Thank you. Again, those watching, this is Game TV. Game is the grassroots alternative movement, and this is it media platform coming to you live. So welcome, and we hope that you can stay with us. But Joe, I know there have been a lot of developments at this institution, but the recent one that we are seeing right now is the Game TV. And so the question is, what do you wish to accomplish with this media platform, Game TV?
We wish to effectively communicate our ideals as an institution to the world, to Liberians first, and then to the world at large. Our programs, all of our activities, and to really reflect who we are, which is paramount in attracting people to us. So they can join us, and collectively we can move Liberia forward, put Liberia back on the trajectory of sustained democracy, economic growth and development as we seek. So the GAME is really a legal institution operating in Liberia, meaning registered under the laws of Liberia. We're almost done with the diaspora registration aspect, which is significant indeed. And I serve as the executive chair of the diaspora branch of GAME, and Dr. Emmanuel K. Ure is the executive chair, Liberia. And like you said, a lot has happened during the course of 1 year and a half ago since the institution was established. We've been able to connect with so many Liberians who are working to support our vision. We were able to, it will interest you to know that we were able to contribute to the ongoing fight against the global scourge, the global pandemic, COVID-19 in Liberia. As a matter of fact, we contributed in terms of dollar and cents almost $1,500. We were able to get our members on the ground to sensitize communities, to educate them on the danger of the virus, and to also provide up to 100 buckets with faucets, everything set. They were trained, and they also went on to provide the education to the communities on how to use the buckets and the detergents. We were able to make that contribution. We have done several civic engagement workshops, symposia, trying to educate citizens on their roles, their rights and responsibilities to their own country. That, in short, positions them very well to contribute to the governance of their own country, to the well-being of the country, by making them productive and patriotic as we provide those civic engagement opportunities. Currently, at Sony, we are about to embark on our direct education assistance program to deserving students. There are many parents who can no longer keep their children in school because they can't afford to pay the fees, the school fees. Uh, they can afford to send them to school, no transportation. So our education coordinator is currently in Liberia, Dr. Victoria Madi. She will be working with Dr. Ure. They are going to do assessment at some of the schools we've identified and to be able to determine the number of kids we can assist to stay in school and be able to acquire the education that they deserve. So we've secured some funding, initial funding. I want to say thanks to Dr. Madi, who is an educationalist and a healthcare practitioner. She's the one I just talked about, our education coordinator who is presently in Liberia, and making sure that this is appropriately put in place. So you see, Game TV has a lot to cover. I was just highlighting some of these important things that we've done. And as we go on in the future, Game TV is going to be discussing these issues and encouraging Liberians to support these initiatives so that we can make our society a better place. That is how we believe at Game that we can make Liberia a just society.
Thank you so very much. And again, those watching us here, this is Game TV. Game is the grassroots alternative movement, and Game TV is its media platform that the institution uses to reach out to Liberians around the world. Well, let's get to the meat of this edition, Joe, if you don't mind. The first thing that comes to mind is referendum. Many rightfully have called for this referendum to be, postponed. But what we realize is that the government did not listen. And so my question here is, do you think the government needed to listen? If so, then why do you think they needed to listen?
Um, First, Anthony, let me say that and Game has done this in an official capacity. I just like to emphasize to say congratulations to the Elections Commission for the conduct of the December 8th polls for the special senatorial election and the referendum to amend certain provisions of the Constitution. We are thankful that the process went on successfully, despite the challenges that were highlighted. Let me also say that on behalf of Game, we're equally disappointed. Disappointed that we made several calls, in addition to the ones that went to people in policy positions individually. We made several national calls. We officially wrote the legislature requesting them to postpone the referendum for several important reasons. We asked them to postpone the referendum. The communication went to the two houses, to the Senate, to the House of Representatives. We follow up with the staff members of the offices of the President pro tempore, of the Speaker of the Legislature. We had several back and forth conversations, but nothing was made official. We encouraged them to advise the legislature to officially respond to our communication. They refused. In fact, the frustrating part was when a staff member communicated to us, indicating that we as Liberians, under the umbrella of the grassroots alternative movement, we have the right to go to court. But the issue of the referendum was cast in stone, and it was going to go ahead. They cannot undo it. So we should go ahead and pursue a legal cause. And we wrote them in response saying that, hey, we need to have official response. This is not just one Liberian sitting somewhere in the corner asking you to postpone a national event of the magnitude that we had. So it is important for you to respond. They refused. We didn't get any communication. You can remember we spoke with individual members of the legislature, most of them. And when we reached a certain point of the conversation, they stopped because they didn't want to be, on record officially communicating with us on behalf of the legislature. That was sad. That was frustrating. And some of the things that we highlighted in our communication are what we are faced with today. We told them that going ahead with the referendum will lead to failure, that the referendum was going to fail massively, that we cannot ignore the lessons of 2011 when we had a referendum and the legislative and presidential elections combined. That was a failure. And we were going to have the same failure because the issues that existed then still exist today. And so to have a referendum to amend certain provisions of the Constitution, which is the organic law of the land, needed effective communication with the public, engagement with the average Liberian voter, making sure that the provisions are clearly articulated in an effective way, in a concise manner, that the symbols are out long before the referendum is held. And we also advise that should they consider the postponement of the referendum, they should also consider reforming the Constitution comprehensively, meaning that we should revise the Constitution in a way that we have a brand new Constitution to adapt, because we believe that improving the laws, is paramount to improving governance in our country. So all of those pieces of advice, those national calls, to enhance our nascent democracy fell on deaf ears. The legislature did not listen. We also call on the Elections Commission in the 11th hour in the wake of the ruling of the Supreme Court in the CPP injunction case, that, hey, even though the Supreme Court fell short on being direct, bold, and forceful in her ruling, it was also appropriate for the Elections Commission not to proceed with holding the election, because just 5 days to the election, it was going to be impossible for them to adopt symbols, concise and effective text to represent the remaining 5 articles that were condensed, and have the Liberian people to understand that, especially the average Liberian voter, to understand that in an issue-based election, not a facial election where we see faces and make instant decisions, but issue-based election where you have to understand the context and the symbol representing each provision. So we were just going for death, and that's what we received. They killed the referendum with their failure to listen to the grassroots alternative movement, to the CPP, and several civil society organizations and individual Liberians. I think what they have done was to misuse resources. That's the unfortunate part of it. Huge logistics went into this effort, which shouldn't have been the case at all. We have proven that we don't listen to our own people. We don't listen to our own experts. And that's one of the things, not just with this referendum, Asoni. Liberians in general, I see on the average that they don't respect their own experts. If probably we were going to receive the call from ECOWAS, from the African Union, or from the UN, people were going to be shaking. Even the president, the executive, the elections commission, they were going to be shaking to respond. They were going to accept to postpone. But since they didn't come from a foreign institution, come from foreigners, like we always do, like Ghanaians, like Nigerians, it didn't come from them to call for the postponement. So no one was able to listen. And this is absolutely wrong if we should be able to turn the table in a positive way and be able to move our country forward. The referendum failed because everybody failed to listen. Those who are in authority and those who have the rights and privilege to go ahead with the conduct of the referendum. That was completely wrong.
Well, that was the voice of Josiah Joekai. He is the executive chairman of the Grassroots Alternative Movement. That is the diaspora branch of that institution. This is Game TV, and we are happy to have you. Now, I want to ask the question whether or not the government missed any opportunity, or it was just sheer blunder that they made by not listening to all the calls. by most Liberians, especially the grassroots alternative movement, that went to the highest length providing research-based information why they needed to listen. Did the government just miss an opportunity to have gotten this thing right, or they just blunder completely?
Right. Both of them, Anthony, both of them. They blunder and they miss opportunities. You know, they blunder in the sense that the entire process are organizational issues.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that they have financial constraints. They knew that they kept recasting the budget, reducing the budget, and until they brought it to a bare boom, that was an indicator that they were not ready. Two, we've repeated that over and over that Liberians were not just ready. Eight provisions, and Sony, a typical Liberian voter, that was a convoluted process to have eight provisions on the ballot and to have senatorial candidates on the senatorial ballots and to have Liberians to go in at the same time and vote for the issues and vote for the candidates of their choice. That was cumbersome. That was convoluted. They shouldn't have done that. That was a blunder. That was a blunder. I would have never advised that with my little experience in electioneering and with conducting referendum in our country. I would have never advised that. That is why in my capacity as an official of GAME, we collectively call on the Elections Commission and the government not to proceed. In my individual capacity, I did that several times. I spoke with some colleagues who were involved with the process that this is wrong. We can proceed. This is not in the interest of our country. Reforming the Constitution is perfect. I support it 100%. But the manner in which they went about it, I did not support it. And that's not the way how they should have gone with it. The logistics was huge. And then acquiring the logistics and deploying it, it was a difficult task. Difficult task. I know what it means. I know the scope of what we are discussing here. It's very huge, very, very huge, a delicate process that they were supposed to have sufficient time as a commission, sufficient time to proceed with these activities. Least to mention, going back to identify those civic educators, those monitors, to be able to train them and deploy them so that they can provide the kind of services, quality services, that will meet the expectations of the average voters in the country. It was just difficult to do that in a short space of time. And we had a right through our direct representative at the legislature to make sure they just needed to come up with one resolution, as simple as that, come up with one resolution to postpone the referendum and start to plan, the holding of a referendum as a single issue in the country to be able to adopt a new constitution. That has been our call for about a year. That's what we've been saying since it started.
Joe, you also said that was also a missed opportunity by the government because many people had called on them. So, why the missed opportunities that you're talking about, or that you agree that they had? I mean, they missed.
Yeah. The opportunity they missed was to get the attention of the Liberian people when it comes to conversation on referendum. And Sonny, this is not a joke. It's going to be a difficult thing to get Liberians again to sit down to begin to talk about referendum, especially when some of the same issues that were introduced, in the December 8th referendum, they will have to be introduced again going forward in the new constitution. So that's going to be a huge task on the part of everybody in the country to make sure that it works. So that was a missed opportunity. They didn't have to blunder to create this problem. They only had to forego holding the referendum, which would have been a greater opportunity to attract everybody's attention to a national conversation on preparing for a referendum to adopt a new constitution. That's the opportunity that they missed out on. And it's going to be the responsibility on everybody's shoulder. This time, not only them, the government, the Elections Commission, to proceed with this. It's going to be our collective responsibility to ensure that it works.
Again, you heard from him, the voice of Josiah Joekai, Executive Chairman of the Grassroots Alternative Movement Diaspora Branch. Joe, so your institution, the grassroots, also offer, the way forward on this referendum mess that we have just had on our hands. What is that recommendation or way forward that you had offered, and why is it better? Why you think that's better?
Um, um, the offer Kim is making, or the proposal Kim is making, to the government and by extension to the Liberian people, is that let us begin a national conversation on adopting a new constitution. We believe that having a new constitution, which should be a renewed framework, because a constitution is a framework. We're not saying that all the ABCs should be in the constitution, but the current framework that we have as our organic law is not consistent with current reality. Some of the provisions in that constitution are either archaic or are not consistent with current reality. And so you cannot have good governance based on such laws. What we are proposing is that we need to take a comprehensive look at the 1986 Constitution.
Okay.
Look, in 1820, we had a constitution and it was amended. 1847, we had a constitution. In 1986, it was amended. We need to do it better. The reason why we amended those constitutions, we adopted those new constitutions rather in succession, was to improve governance in our country. Even the 1986 Constitution, those who ensure its adoption and its establishment had a common goal to improve governance in our country, to increase participation in our electoral process. Elections is at the heart of democracy, to ensure that Liberians have the opportunity to enjoy their own country, the resources, the rights, the privileges of their own country. And that is only guaranteed by one thing, is only guaranteed by the Constitution. And it is our right, fundamentally, that as citizens of our country, to change our constitution when we find it fitting. We have to do that. So we believe at this time that it is right to begin a conversation on that the government should initiate that conversation. And we have a lot to do that. I know it doesn't come so easily, but I know that some work has been done, Anthony. We had a constitution review process in Liberia. If you may, I can just talk about that a little bit to support our proposal.
Yeah. Just in a minute or two, please.
Right. So the Constitution Review Commission was set up by former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, headed by Gloria Mususcat, former Chief Justice of Liberia. And the committee comprised of some other prominent Liberians. The committee did exceptionally well. The committee conducted up to 73 consultations in Liberia and in the diaspora. They conducted consultations in Ghana, where you also have many Liberians still residing. They conducted consultations in the United States of America, where several Liberians were able to participate and identify issues with the Constitution. Of those consultations that were conducted by the CRRC, you had up to 352,000 issues that came out of those consultations. And it was those 352,000 issues that the committee reviewed and was able to draw up or pool 25 propositions from. And those 25 propositions were taken to Banga, where a cross-section of the citizenry representing all of us voted on those 25 issues to be presented to the legislature. And those 25 issues were presented to the legislature. From those 25 issues, the legislature discussed and zero in on 8 articles to be amended. That is why we're saying that was insignificant. 8 articles from 352 issues. That simply tells you that the Constitution has a problem and has to be changed. When we say change, not entirely. There are many of the propositions that we state, but equally so, there's a significant portion that comprise of provisions that are supposed to be changed or amended. And that requires a review of the Constitution consistent with the CRC report so that we can draft a new Constitution and adapt it so we can improve governance in our country. This is our proposal. This is GAME's proposal. And it is something that we all can discuss nationally. The legislature needs to seriously get involved. And GAME is mindful of timing too, Anthony. We have from now to 2023 to hold the next legislative and presidential elections. That's about 3 years. So GAME is saying that, hey, if you want to take 2021 to discuss all of these possibilities and then come up with, a resolution to adopt a new constitution this year, because we are also mindful that the Constitution provides that in order for referendum to be conducted, the resolution has to be adopted 1 year to the referendum. We are mindful of that. So 2021, we can discuss everything and the resolution can be adopted. And 2022, we can adopt our new constitution, as a single issue. And by then, I'm sure we will take a longer time to talk about this nationally, to go into the villages, to educate the people on adopting the new constitution, why we should do it, how we should do it, when we should do it. We can effectively disseminate the conversation to the public. This is what we are talking about. That's what we are proposing. And this is possible. I don't want us to be pessimistic. This is about improving governance in our country. We spend too much time talking about reforming the Constitution, revising the Constitution. I think it is about time for us to act. And this government can make up on this aspect of improving our democracy, enhancing our democracy, by making sure that they support the issue of adopting a new Constitution. This is something that every well-meaning Liberian will want to support, in my opinion.
Thank you. Again, folks, here following us at cyberspace, this is Game TV. Game TV is the media platform of the grassroots alternative movement. We are here in conversation with Josiah Joekai Jr. He is the executive chairman of the grassroots alternative movement diaspora branch. Now we will be coming to governance issues in Liberia. The grassroots, as you may know, those of you watching, if you don't know, is a political pressure group and also an advocacy institution. So they have the right to weigh in on the issues that are affecting not only our country as a nation, but also the people. So let's come to governance, Mr. Joekai. We now have a government that has been around for 3 years now. Every government will come with policies, their governance model and all that. Based on your assessment as head of this institution, what have you come to know as the CDC's governance model, and whether or not it's working for Liberia?
Well, let me say first that every government will have to perform consistent with the laws of the country. The CDC government should not be an exception. But this is what I think many Liberians have been experiencing since the inception of the government. They had to adopt a national plan for governing under pressure. When they came to power, there was no form of plan in terms of short-term or medium-term to support the recovery of the harsh economic situation. There was nothing of that nature. There were so many calls from us, from other institutions, from individual Liberians, that hey, there is no plan in place, national plan in place, and many pundits were making reference to the fight that CDC was. Spent a longer time in opposition, that it was supposed to understand the political climate of the country and derive a good economic revitalization plan, social justice and democracy enhancement plan before even coming to power. So that was one of the unfortunate things that we experienced, because that was not supposed to happen. They were supposed to come clean with a plan, unveiled to the Liberian people on how they were going to proceed with governance. And because they did not come with such plan, but largely being obsessed with the popularity of the president, and so they all were just looking up to the president, and so they started to govern by instinct. If the president comes out today and makes a pronouncement that this is what they're going to do, they go ahead and follow to go to do it. But it was not any form of systematic process to have a plan that they were looking at and making sure that they had indicators, that they had activities established, to follow in terms of turning the economy around from a devastated status, putting it on a trajectory of recovery. That was difficult. Our democracy, in terms of how to sustain it, after struggling over the last few decades to establish it and to sustain it, how to make it work. We did not have this elaborated plan in place. So it was like a disjointed kind of model, if I should describe it. Take, for example, Josh, we are just going on the campus of the university and announcing free tertiary education, public tertiary education. That was not supported by any data. That was not supported by any information from the education ministry. I'm not even sure that it was discussed thoroughly before the pronouncement was made. So the pronouncement was made. There was nothing in terms of how it was going to be funded, over what period, no definition of the period for which it was going to be. If any transition was going to take place after a particular period, nothing in place. And the issue of quality was not addressed. To have a quality, free public, tuition-free public university education, you must look at logistics, what goes into it. You must look at the environment, the education environment. You must look at the infrastructure and everything, the professionalism, what the level of the professors, and then how much are you going to encourage them by increasing their remunerations, their pay. Nothing of that nature was looked at. So that is a classic example of having a disjointed model. There were so many instances talking about the Bali Island construction, how you're going to do it. How does that fit into their national program that was developed under pressure? How does that fit into it? The Bali Island development, how was that going to fit into it? Having an international conference center, having coastal highway and everything. When you talk about adopting policies such as those, then it means that you have already developed a framework, and the framework consists of the financing, of the environment, everything that goes with it, of the infrastructure, professionals, how they're going to, of getting the company that is going to be involved. That's how policies are developed. Those who have the public policy expertise, they will tell you that those are the things you must consider. So everything about the government has just been about pronouncement, from one pronouncement to the other, one pronouncement of the president to the other. And when the pronouncement is made, that's it. Whether or not people go back to revisit, to take stock, to say, hey, we have achieved the coastal highway, or we did not achieve it because of XYZ, or we have achieved the Bali Island, or we did not achieve it because of XYZ. We want to have Air Liberia, for example, one of the recent stuff. Oh yeah, we will achieve it because of XY, or we won't because of XYZ. Nothing of that. So it's a long list. So if you put all of these together and ask me about the model, I would tell you it's a disjuncted model because we have not even had a first review of their national development plan. We have not had a review since it was instituted because there should be a review to tell you this is how much they have achieved, how many persons they've employed, how many citizens they've employed, how they've employed them. Is it through the private sector? Is there any public-private sector initiative that is actively in place, getting the private sector very lucrative and attractive for citizens to move to? We don't expect government to employ the citizens, all of the citizens. No, that's not the work of government. Government is supposed to provide an environment for employment opportunities to exist. And that can be done through a credible and quality public-private sector initiative. That is not working. So if you ask me about model, I will tell you that what we've had is a disjuncted model. It's a disjuncted model.
And Joe, you are right about the CDC coming to power and not having a plan from the get-go. I remember very well the CDC started governing in January of 2018. They didn't have a plan till June, and at some point during June, the tough talking finance minister said they were going to roll out their pro-poor agenda in July. That July came. That was 6 months into their government. They did not deliver. And then it came, and now we have the pro-poor agenda. As an institution that has been following these things because of your advocacy, what is your assessment of the pro-poor agenda?
I've just told you that it's a disjointed approach to governance. So you can have, it's like the whole country itself. Liberia is not short of policies and laws. Liberia has some of the best.
I guess my question is there a contradiction? Because if you look at the word,
I want to define a contradiction.
Go ahead and do that.
There is a contradiction. There exists a pro-poor policy.
Right.
But the model for the implementation of such policy is disjointed. They're not following their own policy. Okay. They're not going by it. Okay? They're doing things, like I said, based on pronouncements by the president. I said they're obsessed with the president and they look up to him. It's like looking up to your benefactor, or your savior, in a way. And whatever the person says is what you go by. So the so-called agenda is like a secondary kind of reference. So what they have to look up to is the pronouncement of the president. What he wants done is what they do. Okay. And even if it is not correct, no one has the balls or no one mans up to say something contrary to what he wants done. And that is responsible for this disjuncted model that I've just talked about. And I was saying that it's like our country for too long. We have policies in our country in the different agencies to improve services, but those policies are on the shelf. They're only good for the shelf, beautiful for the shelf. And now that we're not short of experts to ensure the implementation of these policies, sometimes we have square pegs in round holes, and it's based on political interests. Sometimes you have the right people who can ensure the scrupulous implementation of these policies.
What do you mean by square pegs in round holes?
You're having the wrong people in places.
And doing what?
And not doing the right thing, doing the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. We have had that consistently in our governance system in our country, not just with this government. So I was trying to compare that kind of inconsistency to the inconsistency of the current reality. That's what we have. You have a pro-poor agenda that was elaborated. The pro-poor agenda talks about doing a lot of good things for the country, creating jobs, improving infrastructure. They have it. It's written. It's in black and white. But I need to ask you too, you are the moderator. Is that the reality today? And I'm sure your response will be a resounding no. That was a rhetorical question though. And the response will be a resounding no. That is not the reality. What they profess is different from what they committed themselves to
And, and,
as a government.
and Joe, let me bring this portion in quickly. In governance, one of the ways you can tell that a government is living up to its own programs, or not program, but its own policies and governing model is through the budget, because the budget will show you whether or not what they are professing or proposing is actually what they're doing or what they stand by. If you look at our current budget, the government have had about three budgets so far, now going to the fourth one. Is the budget a representation of the propos thing they're preaching?
That is one of the indicators.
Right.
So if you say that there's inconsistency between the government's actions and her own elaborated agenda, there must be indicators. And one of the indicators is the budget. So you are still having huge recurrent costs versus program expenditure that's supposed to directly benefit the Liberian people. It's not possible. You can't do that, because recurrent costs is just about, wages, honorariums, salaries, and it's not basically for those who do the job at the civil service level. It's basically for people who hold policy positions, people largely in the executive, the legislature, and there is no way that you will effectively implement a proper agenda with a budget of that nature. So if you're talking about reducing salaries, as you were committed to, it needed to start from the top, not from the bottom. You needed to start from the top, significantly reflective of your revenue, income, and reflective of your expenditure. You were supposed to reduce salaries based on your revenue intake, and then expand your revenue, based on needs. So that is one indicator of the inconsistency. The other one is the living standard of the citizen, the individual Liberian citizen.
Right.
Yeah. We're not saying that everybody should have the same living standard. It's not possible. It's not even possible in Western democracies. It's not possible here in the United States where we live. But we are saying that opportunity should be created for people to be comfortable in their zones. You have to raise the economic standing of the individual citizen. That is not happening. It's tough. It's difficult. Salary payment is an issue. In fact, it has become an attraction. That should not be something attractive to the public. When people are being paid, it should not even be a matter of announcement or social media conversation. It is the right of the person who commit to work, and you sign that agreement, they work and you pay them. The individual Liberians who are even working directly with the government is difficult. So living conditions are appalling. That is an indicator that the actions of the government are inconsistent with their policy. That is another strong indicator. I just talked about the private-public sector initiative that's supposed to create jobs. So have they come back to tell us how many jobs they created? No. We're not having a scientific, I'm not presenting a scientific information here. But if you just look generally, from a general perspective, look at the living conditions of the people and number of people who cannot fend for themselves and their family in the country, and what we have to do on a bi-weekly or monthly basis for the family members, even back at home in terms of contribution. If you look at all of those things and take into consideration, there is a huge a disparity. So that doesn't represent the reality in the proper agenda, that there will be jobs. There will be jobs. And then fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline. There's fiscal indiscipline. Even partners, international partners who are still making significant contribution to the governance process in the country sometimes complain about government going into accounts without their concern, because the way those accounts work is that in the different sectors, you identify programs to support both the government and the giving partner. And when it is assessed and a program is established and well costed, then there is a financial contribution term. The government contribute, and mostly government contribution can be recurrent to those kinds of initiatives. Mm-hmm. And then the partner in question contribute to the operation, the program operation. So those kinds of accounts are special accounts that government doesn't just go into and take funds that will not be applied to any other codes. No. There has been complaint about government going into those kinds of accounts and taking resources that went wild, you know. So you have to have fiscal discipline. There's this question about resources being misapplied, constant call by citizens from all walks of life, you know, talking about fiscal indiscipline and making budgetary expenditures, making extra budgetary expenditures. Let me say, extra budgetary expenditures, making expenditures that are not in the budget, just going outside without even deriving supplementary budgets, you know, because you can do supplementary budgets and then expand. But to go and do extra budgetary expenditures, then you are bringing more burden on the government.
Joe.
Yes.
Again, folks, you are watching Game TV. Game is the grassroots alternative movement, and we are in conversation with Executive Chairman Josiah Joekai Jr. He is the chairperson for the diaspora dimension of the grassroots alternative and Game. We want you to tune in to Game TV here every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time and 10 a.m. Central Time, which is 4 p.m. GMT. That's 4 p.m. GMT Liberia time. The chairman just informed us that this platform might likely be going live 3 times a week, just to make sure our people are informed and on that Game can be able to give its position on many of the issues that are happening in our country. So this is where you want to be. Keep hitting the share button. And if you have been following us and you like what you see and you want to be, Game, the first thing we ask you is go to our website and read about us. And then you can reach out to us and ask questions if you may. On our website, there's a place that says click to join. You can fill out a form and we will be able to reach out to you. Again, thank you for watching, and we will continue our conversation with Chairman Joekai. You talk a lot about the actions of the government that are propounding the everyday economic woes and governing woes in our country. One other thing that also contributes to these problems is the issue of inaction, not doing anything about some situations. Have you seen some inactions on the part of our government that are, compounding the everyday governing woes that we have?
I think the first thing, and that sounds a little bit funny, but I have to say it. The first thing that's happening is the distraction of the president. Okay. I think the president is really distracted. The president is distracted. But not surprised. It's not a surprise to some of us because he's doing just what he knows how to do best. The president is a celebrity. You cannot rule that out. And so he's doing just what he knows best. So he's distracted. And it appears as an inaction. Firstly, he doesn't even know that he's supposed to be doing some of those things. He doesn't know. Because his background is completely unrelated to the presidency, to any management and administrative, public management administrative duties. So what he knows is to do best in the entertainment industry, and he's really good at that. So the president, my understanding is that he spends most of his time in the studio. He's making music, and to do that. As a lover of the music industry too, I've interacted with a lot of musicians in Liberia and some of those engineers, you know, like Steve Tikwa and others who are some of the best. You really have to put in time as a musician to writing your song, or if someone writes it for you, you have to study it, you have to spend time, you have to go in the studio, you have to try recording, and it's not just once, you have to go there several times. It takes a lot, and you have to work with the engineer to mix your song, to your expectation. The president is distracted by that. The president is making music when he has lots of things to think about as president of the country. So important. The president could support other emerging Liberian musicians and artists to produce some of his ideas, some of his thoughts. They can do it on his behalf and credit it to him. He could even write his songs and give it to them, but not making it a habit as a president that you have to live in the studio. That alone is a distraction that accounts for inaction. I just wanted to lay the premise to tell you one of the reasons why some of the issues are unattended at this time, by the government. And the kind of disjointed model that they have in governing is bad. And when the president does not speak on issues, people are confused. His enablers, his staff, his assistants, they are confused as to whether or not to initiate them on their own and discuss it with the president, because the president looks at those kinds of moves from different perspectives. He doesn't see it from an innovative perspective, that Ansoni is the Minister of Education. Ansoni wants to adopt a policy on adult learning. And he goes ahead, sets it up, work with the other line ministries and agencies to make sure that it works, and goes to the president. Sometimes the president sees it as you wanting to undermine him or something from his own level of understanding. So this is this misunderstanding, this disjointed approach, this inconceivable way of proceeding with national issues.
Joe.
So it was clear to the public that yes, they are inactions, they don't want to take actions on them, but really there are serious distractions all over the place.
And Joe, before we get to our final question here quickly because of time, will you agree or disagree that the president, I will use the word unwillingness up to this time, to reshuffle his government significantly as the situation, in my opinion, requires, is one of the inaction on his part? Because even people in his party are complaining about some of the officials not being up to the task. Do you see the delay of the president to act in this respect as one of the inactions that is affecting the country?
I don't even think there are plans for any major reshuffle, least to mention delays. No, I'm not sure. Look, there are certain things here that remain clear and not going to change. You don't expect the president to remove Bill Twaway from where he is, given the personal relationship and things that they've done all along the line. The president will feel insecure to take Bill Twaway from there. If he should remove Bill Twaway from his current position, he should be given another position of equivalence. You don't expect the president to change the minister of state. You don't want to do it. If he should change the minister of state, there should be a position of equivalence to do that. The minister of finance, you don't expect the minister of finance to be changed. If he should be, there should be another position of equivalence. There are certain positions, the mayor, the city mayor of Monrovia, you don't expect the president to change him. There should be another position of equivalence. And what are those positions of equivalence you're looking at? To them, it's nothing. It's nothing.
And why I shouldn't expect the president to make what others see as changes that may be able to help us, maybe turn a corner. I know that's not an appropriate word, but
that is not a perspective. That is not a perspective of the president. These are people who are inseparable. These are people who are inseparable for so many reasons. Some of the reasons we don't know.
All right, let's take our first question because of time.
For which he won't reshuffle.
All right, let's take our first question. I mean, the final question, sorry, because of time here. Are we now in the rude awakening moment, or we are not there yet?
I don't know if we are in a rude awakening moment, but what I can say is that from 1997 to 2020,
Mhm.
I've heard Liberians shout slogans such as, "You kill my man, you kill my pa, I will vote for you. You know book, you don't know book, I will vote for you." But in 2020 senatorial election, Monserrato specifically, I heard Liberians saying, "We want Delon. We don't want money." And they overwhelmingly came out. Delon did not have money to pay them, came out and voted for him. If you go back to my post, I said that this is an awakening. And whether or not is the beginning of having our democracy on the right trajectory or not, we are obliged to sustain it, to nurture it. We need to nurture that slogan. We want Delon, we don't want money. Not about Delon, but the mindset of the people who were singing, who were shouting that slogan.
Mhm.
They are the same people who sang in the past for more than a decade. You kill my man, you kill my pa, I will vote for you. You know book, you don't know book, I will vote for you. They are the same people today that have said, we want Delon, we don't want money. And I am saying to Liberians, it is time for us to nurture that mindset. We all need to nurture that mindset so that when you're voting for Asoni, it's about the qualities that he brings to the position.
You sounding
Not,
so hopeful yet.
it's a glimpse of hope.
Okay.
It's a glimpse of hope. But again, we must nurture it. We must sustain it. So next time they can sing.
All
We
right.
want Asoni, we don't want money. We want Joekai, we don't want money. We want John Brown, we don't want money. So they can keep singing that song, because as they keep singing that song for all Liberians who will be seeking elective offices, that will mean sustenance of our democracy.
Thank you. And so, what would be your closing thoughts to your members and to Liberians for whom you advocate and research to contribute to our democracy? What will be your final words?
I just want to encourage everybody to tune into Game TV every Saturday for now at 11 a.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Midwestern time. By 4, it's going to be 4. Is that 4 p.m. Liberian time?
I think
Yes,
so.
4 p.m.
Yeah.
Liberian time.
Mhm.
Um, we're going to be bringing you lots of information here. It's going to be educative, it's going to be informative. We encourage you to watch out every Saturday, don't forget. But as I told you, it's a commitment. We are trying to permanently have moderators and discussants here like 3 days a week. We are working on that. The leadership of Game is working on that. And as soon as it is ready, you will receive the information, and meaning that there will be people here discussing issues of national issues of interest, rather. So this was interesting. Asoni, thank you again. The Grassroots Alternative Movement is a social justice, political, and advocacy organization. Visit our website, gameliberia.org. You can declare your membership after you review all of our programs, our vision, our mission. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Hopefully, I'll be here or another official will be here. Maybe you will see a lady here talking to you about some other issues, or see another gentleman. But for now, I'd like to say thank you, and thanks to Mr. C.
And Mr. Josiah Joekai Jr., thank you so very much. He is the chairman of the Grassroots Alternative Movement Diaspora Dimension. Excellent conversation there. Again, you heard him. Game TV will be here live every Saturday at the time he mentioned. If you want to be part of the movement, the website is being pinned below. And the website is gameliberia.org. If you send out that invite, not invite, we send out your intent, we will certainly reach out to you. Again, thank you and bye bye for now.